do you think and how you would help? Now, Professor Renata Schoeman has been in full-time private practice as a general psychiatrist since 2008. Her special interest has been in diagnosing and affecting concentration, learning and memory, such as ADHD, eating disorders, mood disorders, and also anxiety disorders.
Exactly. 2018 saw her receiving the Excellence Award as Media Thought Leader from the University of Stellenbosch, as well as the South African Society of Psychiatrists Award for Community Service. Now, she is in the loft today, and she's going to be telling us more and sharing more of her expertise on the causes and treatments of eating disorders.
Absolutely. Welcome to the loft, Professor Renata. We are shedding some light on something that I think is considered taboo, and a lot of people don't speak about it. A lot of people place a lot of emphasis on overeating and obesity, but we somehow neglect undereating and malnutrition. Welcome to the loft, and I want to start by asking, what is an eating disorder and why is it characterized as a silent killer?
There's a lot of misconceptions about what is the eating disorder. We often think about, we see the stuff. So either you see someone being very thin or you see someone being overweight and you think, okay, there's a problem. But the eating disorder go deeper. It's disordered eating. So there either might be lack of calorie intake or unnecessary calorie intake. But the other important parts is the impact that it has on self-esteem, the body image, how you consider yourself, and then the functional fallout, where people then are fallout in terms of the behavior socially or functionally.
Worst case scenario, when people oftentimes lose their lives as a result of these things, we sometimes ask ourselves, what were the signs and symptoms that I should have looked out for? What are they, Renata? What should we be seeing?
Okay, so often we just see a change in behavior or a change in eating patterns. So if you're a parent, for example, or a friend or a spouse, you might see someone start to exclude certain food types or certain food stuff. Suddenly we don't touch pizza anymore or previously liked food, or the portion sizes become smaller. So that's the first thing that we might see, or secrecy or downplaying symptoms if we talk about anorexia. In terms of bulimia and binge eating, that's almost more difficult. There's definitely a lot more shame and guilt for a person with bulimia and binge eating, and it's often not disclosed, or it's seen as almost like normal for them because it's not that visible, it's done in secret, and they take very, very long to then look for help. And that's often the ones that we don't know if we don't specifically ask. And I think even for psychiatrists, if you do not ask your patient if they ever binge, if they ever purge, they will never disclose.
But Renata, you've already touched on two eating disorders, which is anorexia and bulimia. For some of our viewers who are not familiar with eating disorders in general, what are the different types?
Okay, so there's a number of other eating disorders. There's pica, where you might eat non-nutritional stuff, which is associated maybe with other disorders like autism or mental retardation, or some women in pregnancy have the strange cravings that they would eat non-nutritional stuff like ice or iron or whatever.
And like sand and rocks, I get that a lot.
And often there's nutritional deficiencies involved with that. Then you get restrictive or avoidance type, where people will just exclude certain types of food, not with a body image misperceptions per se, but more that it can cause malnutrition. Then there's the three more well-known ones, which is then anorexia nervosa, bulimia nervosa, and binge eating disorders. And then we have subclinical subtypes in those in different combinations. People also sometimes think anorexia only means I don't eat enough, but there's often also compensatory behavior, like I will exercise excessively, and I might also purge from time to time. And in bulimia, it's not only about vomiting or purging. You can also have other compensatory behavior, like using laxatives or diuretics or appetite suppressants, or then also over-exercising.
Sure. I know how much I struggled as a young person, and how much I struggled with weight, and of course I tried to stay without food for days on end. Thankfully it was never a really serious problem. I snapped out of it pretty soon. But I can only imagine how young people struggling with social media and all of the expectations that social media puts on us and our bodies go through. What is the role of social media and eating orders today, and is there any link between the two?
I'm happy to say that I think over the past couple of years the people that's behind social media did become more responsible.
Yeah.
In terms of, we saw the change in modeling, where there's now minimum weight for certain models, otherwise they can't walk, for certain brands, which we really applaud and are grateful for. And now more recently, bans on certain type of posts, like self-harm, even severe anorexia photos and websites that's being closed down. But it creates this image that women need to aspire to, and men need to aspire to. We mustn't forget that. And if you just look at South Africa, what the stats show is that up to 30% of women are not happy with their body weight. And up to 18% of adolescents have an active eating, disordered eating, not necessarily eating disorder, but disordered eating. And the pressure is extremely high. And if you see what is the differences between cultures, it's not spoken about. So you get all the different eating disorders in all cultures, and fairly consistent across the span. But less disclosed, and more shame and guilt involved in that as well. And if we look, what it also shows is that white women might more have, they're dissatisfied with their body. And I know that bodybuilding is also a current trend. So our muscles sit in the wrong place, and at certain parts our bums had to be smaller, and now suddenly we have to have round bums again. So you know, it's forever changing the fashion. Where in black women we see it's a lot about perfection and a lot about thinness as well, which was not previously the case. So it's definitely also depending on what social media portrays as the current fashion or the current ideal, what is also driving some of the body image that people are strive to, as I said, in men and in women.
Absolutely. Now, we're looking forward to picking your brain a little later on in the show, where we want to delve deeper into these different disorders, why people seek treatment and how they seek treatment. But thank you so much for shedding some light.
Yeah, it is called the silent killer for a reason. So